Welcome to episode 320 of the Selling Your Screenplay podcast. I'm Ashley Scott Meyers, screenwriter and blogger at sellingyourscreenplay.com. Today I'm interviewing director and also actor Eric Etebari, who just directed a film called Emeril Run, which stars John Snyder and Michael Paré. We talked through this film as well as how he got his start in the business as an actor. So stay tuned for that interview. If you find this episode valuable, please help me out by giving me a review in iTunes or leaving a comment on YouTube or retweeting the podcast on Twitter or liking or sharing it on Facebook. These social media shares really do help spread word about the podcast, so they're very much appreciated. Any websites or links that I mention in the podcast can be found on my blog in the show notes. I also publish a transcript with every episode in case you'd rather read the show or look at something later on. You can find all the podcast show notes at www.sellingyourscreenplay.com/podcast, and then just look for episode number 320. If you want my free guide, How to Sell a Screenplay in 5 Weeks, you can pick that up by going to sellingyourscreenplay.com/guide. It's completely free. You just put in your email address and I'll send you a new lesson once per week for 5 weeks along with a bunch of bonus lessons. I teach the whole process of how to sell your screenplay in that guide. I'll teach you how to write a professional logline and query letter and how to find agents, managers, and producers who are looking for material. Really is everything you need to know to sell your screenplay. Just go to sellingyourscreenplay.com/guide. So now let's get into the main segment. Today I am interviewing director Eric Etebari. Here is the interview. Welcome, Eric, to the Selling Your Screenplay podcast. I really appreciate you coming on the show with me today.
Thanks, Ashley. I'm happy to talk to you.
So to start out, maybe you can tell us a little bit about your background. Where did you grow up and how did you get interested in the entertainment business?
I'm born and raised in Hollywood. My mom was in the record business back in the day when it was RCA Records. They had the Nipper. Remember the dog with the head that turned, listening to the record player?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And then, so my mom was a photographer. She worked in the record business. She was kind of in entertainment. So I think growing up, I was around it a lot. I did take a detour. I ended up really excelling in sports, playing, football, baseball, basketball. And then towards the end of my high school, I started playing volleyball. I picked it up and got a scholarship to go to San Diego State. So I went there for 4 years, played volleyball. And then when volleyball was over, I kind of returned back to Los Angeles. And, I had the long road. It started out, I did print work. I did extra work. I did commercials. From commercials, I did 5 and under. Then I did guest spots. And then I tested. And then eventually I got a show. But, it feels like I've gone through every facet of from every part you could play as an actor, from a one-liner to an extra to a lead on a series regular or being in a $80 million movie. I've covered the spectrum, as well as in production. From being a PA to a director to a producer to a writer. It's been a long journey, and when people say, it sounds cliche, you have to enjoy the journey. It's true. As I've gotten older and I look back, I was like, wow, I've done a lot of stuff, and it always seems to kind of lead me in a direction I never would have imagined. So I've let go of trying to control the future. I control the amount of hard work I put into it. But as far as where you end up in the entertainment business, who knows? Who knows?
Yeah. And so it sounds like you had kind of at least sort of a creative mom who was supportive of your interest in the arts. What do you think attracted you to the entertainment business? What was it about it that you thought, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life?
I think for me, I like to travel. I got to go to Paris. I started traveling around a lot. And even as a kid, the amount of money that you were able to make, especially in those days, it just seemed, as when you get out of college, where am I going to make any money? It seemed like a wonderful place to make money and be creative. But I don't know. I felt like it really didn't hit me until I went to this acting class right out of college. And there was this acting teacher named Sal Dano. And he was one of these guys. He was 70 years old. He was from New York, but he was a scholar. Yet he was like Rocky. He was tough as nails. This wonderful combination. He was the perfect teacher for me. And we studied all the American classics: Clifford Odets, Tennessee Williams, William Minge, Sidney Kingsley, Arthur Miller. For me at 23 years old, whoa, this was intense stuff. But he's the one that really I've always was creative, but I didn't have a direction. I didn't really have a path. And when I got into that acting class, I had the Mamba mentality. In tribute to Kobe today, they had this memorial. I just ended up with that kind of Mamba mentality. I went to class every night. It was 7 to 11. He'd go till 2 o'clock in the morning and stay there as long as kids had work. And kids would like to leave at 11, and we used to tease them and say, "The stars stay." Because we would stay till 2 o'clock in the morning and work scenes all night. So that was the class that really turned my life around, gave me a direction. I found a place to put my aggression, my feelings, my ideas, my thoughts. And then ever since then, I've never looked back. I just, obviously I've had to go into different facets of the business to expand my knowledge and my education and my resume. But, after that acting class, I think that really triggered. I had invested something in it, and then now I was looking for a return. Whereas in the beginning, I was just doing commercials, and that was kind of easy, and modeling. That was easy stuff. It wasn't much of a commitment. But once I went into the acting class and I made that commitment, it just seems like it's been this path ever since.
Yeah. So let's dig into your latest film, Emeril Run, starring Michael Paré and John Snyder, along with a number of other notable actors. Maybe to start out, you can just give us a quick pitch or a logline. What is this film all about?
I'm going to steal it from a Los Angeles Times review. We've had a few reviews, some of the bigger publications, and one of them had this quote, and I thought it was fantastic. It said, "Giving faith a shot while being shot at." Giving faith a shot while being shot at. I thought that's such a great log line. Because the story is about a young man, David Chokichi's character, John, who doesn't believe in faith. He gives it a shot, and while he's experiencing and going through these trials and tribulations, he's being shot at. So I thought that was a log line. Right now, our log line is family is everything. But when I read that one, giving faith a shot while being shot at, that's pretty challenging.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So how did you get involved with this project? Did someone come to you with a finished script? Maybe you can take us down that path. How did this project get on your radar, and ultimately how did you sign on and get to direct it?
I've always said, to me, this is the epitome of an independent film, where it went through all these trials and tribulations and we came out on the other side. It all started for me when one of my closest friends, David Chokichi, said, "Hey, I've got this audition. It's like 4 scenes, 16 pages. Would you come and put me on tape for it?" So I went over to his house. We must have worked on it 5 or 6 hours in his garage. I mean, I saw how committed he was. I really enjoyed working with David. I worked with him in a movie called Snapshot before, and obviously Witchblade, we were co-mates on that TV show. So we had a really strong relationship. And he got the role. So funny enough, he goes to film the first half out in the desert, and apparently due to some type of production issues, they have to shut down the production, and they end up canning the movie. Literally, it's sitting, what they would say in the back in the old days, the cam this time is just sitting on a hard drive. Cut to a year and a half later, I'm at David's house. I'm like, "Yo, whatever happened to that movie we worked so hard on?" He gave me the story, and then David and I are like, "Wow, how can we get this movie up and running? First we have to get a hold of the investor who has all the footage." So David worked really hard on doing that. Then we had to come up with a plan, like, okay, what's our plan? We have half a movie sitting in a can. How do we get this up and running again? So we came up with a bunch of ideas, and the first one was we asked the investor, or David asked the investor, Anthony Crusoe, if he could get the footage, and we talked him into letting us edit everything that he had shot already. So I got together with one of my best friends, this guy Don Money, great editor. We went through all the footage, we edited it in assembly, and then we put together a trailer. I just had a feeling once the investor saw all this work somewhat assembled, and then he saw the trailer, it would pique his interest, and it did. From there, he came down, met David and I. We put together a game plan. We put together a post-budget. And then he had mentioned that his daughter was in film school and writing. It's like, oh, so this is a great opportunity. I always reach to independent filmmakers that, listen, obviously the goal is everybody wants to make money, everybody wants to share their art, but you got to find something else in independent film that you can create value from, whether it's the experience, whether it's the relationship, the journey. If you're just looking to make a dollar, it's a tough business. And it's a long yard business. So, I kept repeating to Anthony, like, hey, we have to, what else, where's the value in this movie for you? And I think it clicked when we had the opportunity to not only put him, but his daughter in it, and have his daughter involved in the writing element. I mean, that's a wonderful gift he was able to provide his daughter. Like, that's better than film school.
Mm-hmm.
That's, on-set training.
With this first, so they shot half the movie. Did they already have a polished script that then you guys were going back to?
Yeah, well, they had a polished script. But the irony was that once David went into the desert, it didn't really relate to the beginning and end of the movie. So Mary Lisa, Anthony's daughter, we rewrote the beginning and we rewrote the end. So it was like trying to create a story from a middle of a story. And we knew we didn't have access to the actors that were shot in the desert, so we had to be really creative on how to bookend this movie. And that's when, we came up with these ideas of Mary Lisa playing the daughter. David and I were able to pull in Yancey Butler because she was on Witchblade with us. I had a really good relationship with Michael Pere and Chris Mulkey, so I added them to the project. And, Mary Lisa and her teacher, her film writing teacher, really constructed this wonderful opening, beginning third of the movie, and this last fourth of the movie, and we just powered it out. Good old-fashioned filmmaking, shot 3-4 days of production, take time off, do a pickup shot, grab a shot, get another shot. I even have shots in the movie. I shot all the underwater stuff with David going in the ocean. Like, we went out there one day with a GoPro. So it was a real team effort, and we were just kind of patching this thing together, trying to tie story plots together. And we ended up with this wonderful little movie that, got a theatrical release. I think it's a wonderful new take on faith-based. I encourage the faith-based audience to see it because I think if they support the movie, you'll get more movies that are not preachy faith-based, but maybe more action-driven, more creative, a little more outside the box. With the success of this movie, I think it'll open up that genre a little bit.
Yeah. So I want to touch on a couple things that you mentioned in there, and I'm not being negative by asking this. In fact, I really applaud you, but I really want to get your honest opinion here. So you're talking about this friend of yours. He prepared 16 pages for this audition. I mean, as a producer, that sounds like a lot of pages to give an actor for an audition, but you guys worked hard on it. And then you also talk about this edit. You basically went and, on your own time and money, put together this assembly cut of the movie, and just on the hope that it would impress these guys. And I know screenwriters run into this a lot, where they get a producer saying, hey, write this script on spec, and then you'll get paid once we get it into production and stuff. And I've been involved in a lot of those where, of course, they never end up going anywhere. And so it becomes very demoralizing. And I wonder for yourself, like, how do you keep going? Because I know we're talking about, in this case, 2 successes, and that's fantastic. But I know there must have been a lot of times where you did a whole bunch of work and it didn't actually amount to anything. And how do you get through those demoralizing moments and just keep a positive attitude and keep that attitude like you currently have, where it's a kind of a, I'll invest my time and money into this thing because I believe it? Because it becomes a very difficult thing to do, year in and year out.
It's true. Like, I've had a few examples. Like, I was working on a movie for 2 years with a friend. He had wrote it. We went into these rewrites forever. I was going to direct it. We talked every shot, every idea. Eventually, he put his own money up to do it, and then in the final minute, in the final inning, he said he wanted to direct it. I was like, yeah, I just gave you every idea, every shot, and I just spent all this time. And he ended up taking off, directing it, and leaving me out. And I was hurt for a long time. I really felt like you could steal my money, you could steal my clothes, my car, but stealing my creative ideas, like, that had a different effect on me. That seems to be, my currency. I make a living from it. So I've had that experience where I've been robbed of all my ideas. And then I've had projects where I think it's really great and everybody passes and no one wants to get involved, or But it's always funny, like you put these ideas out there, nobody wants to get involved, and then like a year later you see a very similar idea that's successful. Look, it's like anything in this business. No one's a professional. You never know what's going to hit. And especially with writing, like I've read scripts that are made into 10, 20, $50 million movies. I can't believe it. I would never have thought this script would warrant, that kind of budget. But I don't know what that secret is. Obviously, you as a screenwriter, and I listened to your last podcast with that writer-director, who I think he was like motivated. He was on vacation or something, and he just wrote it. He was writing it. I don't know. I think it's just like anything. If you treat your writing like a journal and you're able to find a way to get some satisfaction with getting the words out on paper, that's wonderful. If you're then able to get to the next stage, you get someone interested, that's more wonderful. Then you get the budget, then you shoot it, then it's made. So there's all these gradual steps. I just try to enjoy each step, not look too far ahead, but try to take each step as a milestone and a goal and a success. But in reality, I have like 3 or 4 projects I'm trying to develop and write and get writers attached, and then that gets kind of tricky because then you forget whose idea it was, whose idea, what ideas stay, if the partner leaves. I'm sure you've experienced that. You write with somebody like, okay, wait a minute, whose idea was this? I forget now. I started to think it was my idea we spent so much time on. You're like, no, it's not your idea. And if you want to leave, you leave without any of those ideas.
Yeah. Huh. I just want to ask you, just as a practical thing, when you're an actor getting ready for an audition, doesn't 16 pages seem a little excessive? Like as a producer, I would just be a little embarrassed to send that many pages for an audition. I don't know, maybe if it was like the third callback and a $50 million movie and you're really trying to hone it down, but I don't know, that didn't seem a little nervy. Do producers often send you guys 16 pages?
I think, look, I've had to do close to that 14, 16 on series regular jobs. They want to know that you can gobble that dialogue. They want to know that you can handle that. When you're a series regular and you're shooting 5 days a week for 8 months, they can't take a chance on 1 or 2 scenes. They want to see kind of an arc. I thought 16 was a little excessive. But, David is in every frame of this movie. So I'm sure that first director that was that had contributed to the writing and was directing it felt like, hey, I need to make sure that this lead actor is going to be able to handle the content through the whole movie. Because, he starts at home, he ends up stranded in the desert, has this, epiphany once he returns home. So it had a real major arc for a character, and I'm just assuming that he must have felt like he needed to see David's full range. And, David delivered, did the work. It was a lot of work. He did the work. But I think that director and that stuff, he had done a few things that were sort of uncommon or outside the box, which might have led to the production closing down, and maybe that has something to do with, like, having people audition 16 pages. It was a little excessive, but look, David knew it. He didn't bother him. He was off book. He put it on camera, and he looked great, And sometimes, look, it's like the Mamba mentality, and I might refer to this just because, I just watched the memorial for Kobe, but, hey, if someone said, learn 16 pages and you'll be the lead in this movie, I wouldn't hesitate. I recently went on an audition where they wanted to do this hip-hop kind of rap musical drama, and in the audition they had 2 scenes that were like 3 pages each, and then one scene they wanted you to write and perform a rap song based on this event. And it was like heavy stuff. It was like a cop who shoots an unarmed person in their car late at night due, a miscommunication, and then they wanted you to sing this dramatic rap song. I was like, wow, like this, like I'd rather audition 16 pages than try to write a rap and perform it.
No kidding.
I also, the fear of it, the fear of not being prepared forced me to just go all in. And even the casting director at some point had sent out like 2 emails saying, do not come in to this audition if you don't have a musical rap prepared. I got so nervous. I wrote a full song. I constructed music. I show up to the audition, And I guess no one had been preparing their songs. So he was over it by then. By the time I got in, he's like, yeah, we're just going to like sing one bar so I could see you could rap. I'm like, what do you mean sing one bar? Like, I just spent 2 weeks writing a rap song and having my friends write music for it. I was like, you're going to listen to the whole song. And so I insisted that they listen to the whole song. I put so much work in it, and they high-fived me. I'm actually on hold for the job. They postponed it, but I ended up getting on hold for the job, and I think that's partly because I was the only one who did the work, who wrote the song, applied it to the content, to the story, went in there with a boombox, put it in, and let it rip. And I didn't let him just let me do one bar. You know, it's like when you go on audition, they give you 3 scenes to memorize, and they show up and they say, "Oh, we're just doing scene 1." Well, yeah, that always sucks because I just prepared 3 scenes. You know, you're not getting paid for it. So, but like the life of an actor, the life of a writer, Ashley, you just don't know. You just got to be prepared, and if you want it bad enough, you do the work. Fair or unfair.
Yeah. So I just want to ask you, especially with your background as an actor, I get a lot of emails from screenwriters saying, how can I get this actor or that actor attached? So I always like to throw that out as a question. Maybe you can talk about just the process of getting it. Sounds like in your case, since you are an established actor, you had relationships with a lot of these other actors. But maybe you can talk to that process at least just a little bit. Did you guys hire a casting director then to go make offers, or were these all just personal connections that you guys did have?
I think in the desert stuff, which was like Vernon Wells, Sean Williams, Stephen Williams, Vernon Wells, this guy Sean Burgess, I think they all were casting. When it came to Yancey, Mulkey, Hooray, and everybody in LA, I really just pulled my Rolodex out of relationships that I had with all these people. And, you know, the reality is I've shot my own stuff and I've done a lot of stuff. So if you treat people right and you respect them, they'll work for you. You know, people want to work. You just can give them a reason not to work with a bad attitude. So for me personally, I have so many friends in the business that I really wouldn't need a casting director out at this moment unless I had such a project that had so many people that I had to work outside of my network. But you know, I was very fortunate to have people that I've worked with in the past in other movies. Like I directed this movie, Bare Knuckles, that Chris Mulkey was in that. And he had such a fabulous time. He's like, Eric, I'll work for you anytime. I did a movie with Michael Pare, just a scene in the movie 18 years ago. Then I put him in this movie I directed, and then same thing. He had such a good time. I was like, hey, Eric, anytime you want to do a movie, I'm in it. It's like, boom. And then, you know, I had Prey. And then Yancey was the first time David and I had a chance to work with Yancey since Witchblade 20 years ago. So that was a wonderful opportunity to kind of create a reunion. Like, it was like a reunion for us. So, you know, the casting process for me has been fairly easy in the sense of I just kind of looked at my phone. I have so many friends that are great actors that, you know.
Yeah. Now, like John Schneider, correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't he have kind of a reputation of being in a lot of these family-friendly, you know, that's maybe not the right word, but the, you know, sort of the religious movies, the religious-themed movies. And did that affect funding at all, do you think?
You know, I don't have that answer. I'm not sure. You know, I know John Schneider has like a studio and he's pretty supportive on independent filmmaking and stuff like that. So I'm not sure how the faith-based element sat with him or if it's helped or hindered. But again, what is like, we really get down to it, what is a faith-based movie? I think people put too much of a religious concept on it. I mean, everybody in a movie, every leading character is dealing with some sort of looking for faith, encouragement, guidance, and light, right? It's the hero's journey, you know, and we've kind of put this idea of, oh, faith-based, but like what movie isn't faith-based? What hero isn't looking up at God for help or looking for some higher power to help them through these hard times? You know, that I feel like that's gotten really misconstrued and boxed faith-based movies where, where again, most of the characters in movies that we're rooting for are looking for a little bit of faith or some opportunity to better themselves. Wouldn't you agree? Like, you're a writer.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I totally do agree with you.
Those characters are looking for deeper meaning, something more. I don't even know what the difference is, faith or not faith.
Yeah. Yeah, no, those are excellent points for sure. So what's the release schedule like going to be with Emeril Run? Do you know when it's going to be out and how people can see it?
I think it's out right now. It's in selected theaters. Anthony Caruso on Instagram and Facebook has been listing the local theaters. Obviously, for the marketing, they put it in theaters in areas that are probably more appropriate for this type of movie. And then I think today it released into even more. So I would look on Anthony Caruso's Instagram, and then obviously on my Instagram at Eric Etebari. I'm kind of copying off his Instagram to post little feedback updates, little success of the movie and stuff like that.
Perfect. Well, Eric, I really appreciate you taking some time out of your day to come and talk with me. This looks like a cool film. I wish you all the best with it. And, of course, you're always welcome back for your next project.
Excellent. I'd like to add one more thing that I feel like, because I know it's a screenwriting, but in the sense of the business, it's gotten so convenient that I really feel that independent filmmakers are taking for granted what it's like to have a performance environment, an acting performance environment. I think things have happened so quickly for people with technology that people haven't mastered this skill yet. They haven't mastered. You could go online and learn how to write a script. You can go online and learn how to use a camera. You can go online, but the actual putting the work in to get a real understanding of how do I create a performance environment? And I've noticed on these independent films that I'm doing that it's just noisy. There's no respect for the set. There's no respect for the scene. And they got to remember, at the end of the day, it's what's on camera that's going to count. No one's going to go, oh, how great was Crafty, or it's really the actor's performance on set. And I just wish that these younger directors put a little more care. Classic example, and this is an extreme. I did stand-up guys with Al Pacino and Christopher Walken, and whoa, what an experience. So when you come to rehearse the scene, they clear everybody from the set. There's nobody, just the director and the DP. And it's quiet, and it's focused, and they rehearse it. Then when it's done, the actors are removed. Then they bring in all the crew and light up according to what they saw in the rehearsal. And when the actors come back, they clear it all out again. And this is an extreme where even Christopher Walken would have to have everybody out of eye line sight. So they'd be filming the camera through a little piece of material, so just the lens would show, and you couldn't see anybody behind there rolling, pulling focus or anything like that, just the actor in front of the camera. I mean, that's obviously an extreme, but look, these are some of the greatest actors who've ever lived, so maybe there's a method to their madness. And it was after that moment I realized, wow, maybe this is why they do put out so many great performances, because this environment, it really bred for a good performance. It was built for them to be focused and to be quiet and to find nuances and not competing with somebody texting on their phone in your eye line, talking loud. And my note to all these new up and coming filmmakers and writer directors is, I think all that stuff's great, but at the end of the day, you really got to try to create a performance-friendly environment so that you can get the best performances from your actors, and they could do their jobs. I think that's undervalued today.
Yeah, no, I agree, and that's an excellent. Yeah, that's an excellent pro tip, and I totally agree. And a lot of I know as someone who has done some directing and producing, a lot of it is just the getting rushed and this sort of stuff. But I totally agree. At the end of the day, it's what's on film that's ultimately going to be judged. There's a lot we could probably all do.
I don't need an AD before I'm about to shoot my scene screaming, "We don't have time! We're running out of time! We got to go!" Those are not the thoughts you want your actors to hear right before the scene. What? You don't have any time? Wait a minute. Oh, action. What? Where am I? That kind of stuff drives me nuts.
Yeah, for sure. So, well, again, Eric, I really appreciate you coming on and talking with me. Excellent interview. Lots of great tidbits for the audience.
Awesome. And, good luck, Ashley. I look forward to seeing what you got cooking. I know you're constantly writing as I was looking at your blog, and I think it's wonderful. You're giving out, I hope these people appreciate it. You're giving out a lot of great free advice and good tips on stuff. I was stealing stuff myself, so keep it up. Thank you for contributing to the art of writing and filmmaking.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. We'll talk to you later.
You got it.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
I just want to talk quickly about SYS Select. It's a service for screenwriters to help them sell their screenplays and get writing assignments. The first part of the service is the SYS Select Screenplay Database. Screenwriters upload their screenplays along with a logline, synopsis, and other pertinent information like budget and genre, and then producers search for and hopefully find screenplays they want to produce. Dozens of producers are in the system looking for screenplays right now. There have been a number of success stories come out of the service. You can find out about all the SYS Select successes by going to sellingyourscreenplay.com/success. Also on SYS podcast episode 222, I talked with Steve Deering, who was the first official success story to come out of the SYS Select database. When you join SYS Select, you get access to the screenplay database along with all the other services that we're providing to SYS Select members. These services include the newsletter. This monthly newsletter goes out to a list of over 400 producers who are actively seeking writers and screenplays. Each SYS Select member can pitch one screenplay in this monthly newsletter. We also provide screenwriting leads. We have partnered with one of the premier paid screenwriting leads services, so I can syndicate their leads to SYS Select members. There are lots of great paid leads coming in each week from our partner. Recently, we've been getting 5 to 10 high-quality paid leads per week. These leads run the gamut. There's producers looking for a specific type of spec script to producers looking to hire a screenwriter to write up one of their ideas or properties. They're looking for shorts, features, TV, and web series pilots, all types of projects. If you sign up for SYS Select, you'll get these leads emailed directly to you several times per week. Also, you get access to the SYS Select forum, where we will help you with your logline and query letter and answer any screenwriting related questions that you might have. We also have a number of screenwriting classes that are recorded and available in the SYS Select forum. These are all the classes that I've done over the years, so you'll have access to those whenever you want once you join. The classes cover every part of writing your screenplay, from concept to outlining to the first act, second act, third act, as well as other topics like writing short films and pitching your projects in person. Once again, if this sounds like something you'd like to learn more about, please go to sellingyourscreenplayselect.com. Again, that is sellingyourscreenplayselect.com. On the next episode of the podcast, I'm going to be interviewing Brando Benetton, who's a recent USC film graduate and made an action short film that looks incredible. He did it all on a very small budget, but it looks like a really big budget action Hollywood film. It's pretty amazing short film they ended up using to pitch the story idea as a reoccurring TV series. It's like a 45-minute action short film. We talked through all the trials and tribulations of getting this film produced and how that has led him along his career path. So keep an eye out for that episode next week. To wrap things up, I just want to touch on a few things from today's interview with Eric. Please really listen to what he said about the acting class. When he said, the stars stay, the future stars stay, so often when you talk to successful people, they'll have a very similar story. They worked while everyone else knocked off and went out to have a beer after class. They stayed there. They kept doing more work. I mean, that's very, very telling, especially as someone like myself who always puts in those extra hours. I remember in college, as an example, I was on the tennis team, and me and one of my tennis buddies, we literally used to go out on Friday night and Saturday night and play tennis. We could rent the indoor course. This was in Greensboro, North Carolina, so in the winter it was really too cold to play at night, certainly at night, and we could rent these indoor courts very, very cheaply because, needless to say, nobody else wanted to play late at night on a Friday or Saturday night. And I think we would even start at like 8 or 9 at night. It was like pretty late. And me and my buddy, we were the number 1 and 2 seeds on the tennis team. And we would always get these little snide remarks from the other players on the team, like we were losers for playing tennis on a Friday night. But I mean, this is how you know you're doing the right thing, when other people start making those little snide remarks. they're a little bit jealous or just a little bit envious, a little bit annoyed that you're doing that extra work and beating them. A more recent example is the Kickstarter campaign. I was still doing all the normal work that I do to keep the lights on around here. Plus, I was running the Kickstarter campaign, editing together the footage, making those little teaser trailers after my kids had gone to bed. And it's just, so often I just, someone tells me those little stories. I think, aha, I've experienced those moments too, where I'm doing something, everybody else, all my friends and family, they go out, they're enjoying a nice time while I'm home doing that extra little bit of work. And I'll hear a little story like what Eric said, and I really relate to that. And I really hope you, as a screenwriter moving up the ranks, I hope you relate to it too. And I know this isn't the sexy answer that people want to hear. This isn't a headline like 5 ways to make your dialogue snap or 3 tips to make your thriller more thrilling. I see those headlines all the time. I'm often tempted to click on them too, but that's not the secret to all of this. The secret is that there's just a lot of straightforward drudgery that you must do to perfect your craft. And you're going to need to put in a lot of extra hours until someone is paying you to do this. And in fact, even after people start to pay you to do this, you're still going to have to put in a ton of extra hours because this business is super, super competitive. That's how you stay afloat. You're going to always be doing those extra hours, putting in that extra time. So this is another thing I want to talk about from Eric's interview, different topic. But I think it was something that Eric did that was so smart, was the idea of giving his investors value other than just straight return on investment, ROI. Casting the investor's daughter in the film and using her to write some portion of the screenplay was a great idea. And it does give value to the investor by giving his daughter professional writing credit and an acting credit in the film. Those are incredible. Those are valuable credits, especially to someone that's just starting out in the business. I've talked about this all before many times on the podcast. Try and think outside the box and give your investors value, even if it's not straight ROI. It doesn't have to be a role in the film. It doesn't have to be writing the screenplay. Obviously, most people that listen to this are going to be screenwriters. So that's maybe not a good fit for the people listening. But there's other things that you can give to them. Maybe they're an actor and they want to act in the film. Maybe they're a director. They want to direct the film. Maybe that's how you can start to form partnerships, get other people to, invest in your work. It's what you just have to do is you have to understand why this person is willing to put their hard-earned money into this project. And I'll give you a little hint. It's probably not because they're in awe of your unbelievable talent. There's probably some selfish reason they're doing this. And if you understand what those reasons are, you can make sure that they get out of this project what they're looking to get out of it and have a good experience. And that's ultimately what people want, more than just a straight ROI or return on investment. And that's really what Eric was talking about there, just giving your investors, because making money on these films is very difficult. Each film you make, may or may not make money. You just don't know in a lot of cases, just because this business is so competitive and so difficult. But if you're giving your investor something other than just straight ROI, then at least they get that out of it. And then they know going into it, hey, even if I don't make my money back, at least I got A, B, and C. And that's really important. Just, ethically, I think that's important. But I also think it makes it so it's a win-win for everyone. Your investor is getting something that they value out of the project for their money, and you're obviously getting investment money for your project. So it becomes a win-win. And those are so often the best business deals, when both sides win. There's this idea that, one side wins and one side loses in these business deals or any of these things. It's a horrible mentality to go into any sort of a business negotiation or anything. The best business deals are ones where both sides win, where both sides look at it and feel like they got a lot of value out of it. Anyway, that's the show. Thank you for listening.